Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast, or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. In this episode, I talk with Phill Wamser, not Wamser, Wamser. We met while running a booth together at Geekway to the West, the local board game convention here in St. Louis. We decided to do the interview at Geekway one evening to get the ambient sounds of the convention. Phill is a game designer and youth pastor that uses games to help get the teenagers at his church to interact with each other in person, not just over their phones. We also found out that Phill has been using Kickstarter slightly longer than me. His first backing was a game called Skirmish, a strategy card game that launched September 1st, 2015. While mine was Scuttle, and it launched March 22nd, 2016. Phill and I hit all the usual questions, and we had a great time in the process. Thanks for listening. Alright, welcome back to Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins, and with me today is Youth Minister Phill Wamser, who uses board games to get his youth to interact better. Phill, how you doing?
I'm doing alright, Adam.
Well, so Phill and I are recording outside in the hall of the Geekway to the West board game convention here in St. Louis, so that is the noise you might hear in the background. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to introduce you to Phill, who, like I said, we just met. We're both board game designers, both work with partners in our board game design, but we thought it'd be fun to kind of bring the ambiance of the convention to you. So, Phill, what else do you do for the gaming community?
Along with my brother Jake, we founded a board game company, Wam Wam Games. Damn
Wam Wam. That's W-A-M, Wam Wam.
Most people will be saying Wham Wham, and I don't know how we're going to stop that, but that's okay. We have a game coming out this summer, Turn for the Worst. It's a hot dog building rummy-style card game. Should be a lot of fun. On top of that, like you mentioned, I work with teenagers, and I don't know, for those of you listening, if you spend any time with teenagers, but they tend to be pretty awkward. And I've found that sometimes when working with teenagers, just having them do something with their hands or take their minds off the social interaction through playing games, it opens them up to share better, have better communications, and just grow closer together.
No, it's awesome. It's what I always say. You're building bridges, getting them to build bridges with each other, work their way out of their awkwardness.
Yeah.
Always a hard thing to do with kids, especially in technology days of getting off those screens. So, Phill, how did you get into gaming?
So we grew up playing a lot of board games in my house, a lot of the classics, and that kind of got me started with the baseline. My parents also had a few obscure games, at least obscure for the time, being the early 90s. And so that kind of, when the newer games started to come out, I was a lot more open to trying new things. When I hit college, I went to Truman State University in northeastern Missouri, known for three things: cows, corn, and lots of nerds. So I got introduced to a lot of things. My first, my gateway drug into real gaming was Settlers of Catan. And from there, it quickly grew into more and more obscure and more complicated games. I like to tell people my favorite games to play are the ones that when you explain the rules to your friends, they don't want to be friends with you anymore because they're that complicated.
Gauge.
Yeah,
it's a good gauge. I'll have to start using that one myself, actually. I think that's a good gauge of is this game geeky enough for me? So if I came over to your house out in western, just outside the city limits and county limits of St. Louis, what game is currently on your table?
So I have two answers for this one. If you were to come to my house, currently my 5-year-old loves pulling out My First Castle Panic.
Oh, that's one of my daughter's favorite, man.
It's a great game, great introduction to get him away from Candyland and Chutes and Ladders.
And, there's so much going on in that game that you can also get with Candyland, but this is a game that there is more skill and strategy than just I flip a card to move 1 or 2 purple. Now I've got to match the color, match the shape.
Yeah.
You still get the same idea of the matching, but a little bit more strategy in it. My daughter absolutely adores my first castle building.
If my daughter has her say, it's a Pretty Princess. She's a big fan of that one. But if you were to come to my office right now, where I do most of my gaming, currently we're going through a big love letter phase. The teens I work with adore love letter.
No, straight love letter or any of the
it's very rare
VIPs?
so it's very rare that we have so few people that we can play the base game. And so we're almost always playing just love letter in the first expansion. I don't know if there's more than one expansion.
I meant more like, so I don't have actual love letter. I have Batman love letter.
Oh, yeah, no.
Archer love letter.
Ours is the original, yeah.
So, it's a fun game. It's a quick hit. It's a little bit of social deduction. It's a lot of fun. As you can hear, some people are having a lot of fun playing whatever game it is they got going on around the corner. So you've already said Catan correctly, so we can bypass that question.
Yeah.
Do you play lunch during your day job? Or do you play lunch? Do you play games at lunch with your day job?
So my day job is strange. Even though I work in a parish and therefore there's a bunch of employees, I'm in a building off by myself. And so during my lunch break, it's usually just still me by myself, not really being around other people. And I'm also the anomaly working for the Catholic Church. The fact that I am under the age of 50 makes me the minority in my parish.
I can see that.
And so I'd love to get them into gaming, but we never match up time-wise, lunch-wise.
Yeah, I started just breaking out decks of cards and playing rummy with them.
I think if I showed up in the main building with Ticket to Ride, they would just be very afraid and not sure what's going on.
Vote you out. Vote you off the island. Did you see if Phil brought a game that's not from the 50s?
I knew he never does any work here.
Yeah. Sometimes I get that question, do you do anything around here?
Yeah.
I do my job, but I also like to play games because you can't go wrong with some games.
Former coworker of mine, his favorite response when someone would ask, how many people work here? About half of them,
yep. Yeah, I said that joke in front of a vice president one time, not realizing how high up he was in the company. And then later on, I was like, oh, shoot, I'm in trouble. And the vice president came up and said, hey, that's pretty funny. I'm like, all right, so I'm a job. So if you were able to play a game at lunch hour, what would be your go-to 60-minute game?
If I was with a new crowd of gamers, my go-to would actually be Ticket to Ride. I just mentioned it. It's my wife's favorite game. In all the times we've played it together, I've only beaten her twice. I don't know what it is about that game, but she gets it. I love Ticket to Ride. Easy to get into, easy to teach. I can teach it and play it in 60 minutes with any group.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good one. Do you have a favorite set of tracks?
Like the path that I take?
No,
or,
do you play just the straight U.S. or Europe or?
My favorite is the base game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I have in my office. We don't have any of the others handy with us.
I just got Rails and Sales. I'm super excited to break into that one. Haven't had a chance. Huge board. Great table presence, but man, the 90-minute playtime kind of keeps me from being able to play it at work. I can get by with 60 minutes, 65, but 90, I think I would probably draw some attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how about a go-to 30-minute for a lunch half-hour game?
Honestly, most of the time, especially when working with the teens, if I have 30 minutes or less, we tend to break out some of the micro games and just play a bunch of rounds with those. And so I think if I were to sit down with a lunch group, I would probably bring Coup with me the first time, play a bunch of rounds of that. Or one of my favorite games of all time is TAC. It's based on a book by Patrick Rothfuss. And again, you can teach it quickly. It's only a 2-player game, but I found the 2-player abstract strategy games you can pass around the table and get people talking when it's not their turn. Yeah. And that's been really helpful.
Yeah, those quick hit games are always fun because you can, play a couple, they learn, strategies. Oh, I think this will work, and then they try it, and then, they overcommit one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
It's always that way, especially like Seven Wonders. You think, all the money's in, all the way to win is in the green, and then you overcommit. And the next time you're like, it's all in the blue, and then you overcommit. But with Coup, it's the same way. You're like, it's all about claiming having a Duke. But then everybody claims to have a Duke, and then everybody ends up, nobody has a Duke. And so with Coup, do you ever play with the expansion Reformation?
Yeah, so when I first bought Coup, it was right after Reformation had come out, and so we had them both, and Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the expansion. I know a lot of people disagree
no.
with that.
Yeah, I do.
I love the base game. I'm a big fan of it. And
I like the strategy, the whole other next level of strategy that Reformation brings into it, because now you bring in those alliances and you could force somebody. If I know you have to coup somebody, I'll put one other person on, not on our team. So now you have to coup that person because there's no time to change. Or flipping myself, or just taking all the money of everybody else is paid in. I love the additional scope of the game with the Reformation. There's also, I don't know if you've seen them. I believe they're on Board Game Geek Store. They have a lot of promo characters that you can buy, and you can. They suggest going and putting this one in the place of this character, and so they have about, I want to say, 3 or 4 different ones. I've always thought about buying them, but I don't play Coup enough anymore.
That's fair. Whereas, working with the teenagers, Coup comes out probably once or twice a month.
Oh, yeah.
And, I only meet once a week with them, so it's quite a bit.
That's a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
So, when you're playing Ticket to Ride, I guess, or any game with colors, do you have a specific color that you gravitate towards?
Ever since I was a little kid, it's always been green. I go for green.
I can see
that.
And
when green's not there, I don't play.
What about Jake?
So my older brother Jake, he typically goes for blue or black when I've played with him. I say growing up, I feel like it was always Jake was blue, our middle brother Nate was red, and I was green. And green was always just left, and I think that's why I started on it. But then it's all I go for now. And whenever I'm playing a game with my daughter, if pink is not available, she takes green. And so it's heartbreaking to me, trying to figure out what to do.
So I had Gabe Barrett on the show about a month ago now, and he's decided that if they want to play the same color as him, then they have to play a game to win. The winner of that game gets to have the color. So maybe you should start making your daughter beat you in a game to get the green.
Could add a fun layer of it. I think my 4-year-old daughter would just think I'm mean by not letting her have the color she wants. But
Dad,
I already have a philosophy of I try to avoid letting them win. I'll encourage them to win and help them along. But I feel like if I let them win, then when they get to kindergarten, their teacher will hate them.
I never let my son just win. As frequent listeners to my show know, he started playing King of Tokyo at the age of 3. And beat me 3 games in a row right out of the box, and I decided the game was completely broken. There was no sense in playing this game anymore. Luckily, since that time, I adore King of Tokyo, but I don't let him win ever. And now we bring Mom into the equation. He will sometimes help Mom win so that she'll play more games.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I like that, but you never know with kids. So what about a hidden gem game? A game that you just don't think gets the attention it deserves?
One I've already mentioned, which was Tack by James Ernst. I'm a huge fan of that. It's I consider it a modern classic. It plays in the same feel of like chess, where there are so many possible ways you could win depending on the size of the board, because that changes. I'm a big fan of that. One I recently have started to fall in love with. I don't know when it came out. I found it in a Goodwill. I believe it's called Rubik's Slide. So it's a head-to-head game where, so in the middle there's a grid of 9 different cubes, and you shake them up, and whatever colors come up, you have to then slide pieces to match that on your side in your middle 9 pieces, and then slam the board shut when you win, if you're the first person to match the pattern. So it's like, have you ever done those slide puzzles where there's like numbers?
At them, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's that sort of movement, sliding around to get the colors where they're supposed to go. And I love it because my 5-year-old, who can't quite handle the strategy of the slide yet, can still pick up and move the pieces, and I can follow the rules, and we can still have that race.
Yeah.
But then I can sit down with one of the teenagers at work who does get it, and we can play that game head-to-head.
So is it like a suitcase where you're both competing in there, so I go shut the whole game down, or just my side of the board?
So it's, think a long flat board with one piece up in the middle like a divider. But when you close the divider, it only leaves the 9 pieces that are going to matter to win the game revealed on your side. So it matches that.
I was picturing Pretty Woman, so like you smash somebody's fingers in the game, like you lose and you lose your fingers.
I don't think I could play that one with my 5-year-old losing the fingers, but
Okay, that does seem a bit violent for a 5-year-old.
I also haven't watched Pretty Woman with him yet in 5-year-old, and
It's probably safer that way.
it's
Probably should probably wait a couple more years. So we've hung out a lot over the last 3 days. Yeah, Thursday, Friday. We're recording this on Saturday. You and your brother, we've had a lot of fun. We've got a lot of good plans for the St. Louis board game community.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll pan out. We've met some good people. We've made some good connections. Oh, pan out, yes. Oh, what a good joke. For those of you who don't get it, what we're looking at is a sheet pan game that you can play inside a baking sheet or baking pan. So when I said pan out, yeah, Phil, that's a good pun. That was a good dad joke. You can tell we're both dads because that was a bad joke that I'm sure nobody's laughing at right now. They probably skipped forward. But I'm looking forward to a lot of the cool ideas, the cool stuff that we talked about trying to get, working more together, hitting the farmers markets together. Made some good connections while we've been here. Found some people with some other crazy stuff, crazy ideas like us. It's going to be good.
I think it should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to bring some games to market with some other designers as well.
Yeah.
And just get that collaboration going. Because that's what, my philosophy about board games is all about. My brother and I, the big push of Wham Wham Games is we want to create positive social interactions with our games. We want people to laugh and to talk and to just have fun. And that's what all the games we've talked about.
You have a game called Turn for the Worst, WURST. So you've already got a bad pun name for people to be laughing at to start out with. So I look forward to that one. Maybe we can play test it yet tonight.
Yeah, that'd be fun to get a group together.
But yeah, with trying to get games to market, it's been awkward lately. Like I think games I see on Kickstarter succeed are blowing my mind. That they're making their money, and the games are struggling that I think should be making it, and they're not. It's just an odd time to be making games. So there's so many games. And again, talking to Gabe Barrett, he's like, a lot of people were stuck at home, and they came up with a game idea, and it's actually a good game idea. It's just a matter of trying to figure out, okay, how do I get it out of my head into a prototype and then out there? And I think that, we've had a lot of... You've been doing a lot of 3D printing overnight.
For us this weekend.
Us this weekend and trying to prototype some new ideas that we were literally coming up with on the fly and then trying them out the next day.
Yeah, well, that's actually... It's been a huge part of my day job in youth ministry is every week we would try and start whatever topic we're going to talk about with a game. And the resources I had were just... I don't want to say terrible and then offend someone who helps write those resources, but the games just wouldn't work for my groups, and so fairly often I'd come in on a Sunday afternoon and I'd have 4 hours to write a quick social game and throw it together and get the pieces made. And so that's kind of led to this, what's been happening this weekend. We come up with an idea and I go, I have 4 hours, I can go do this real fast.
Yeah,
and
you showed up this morning with one of the new ideas. We immediately started looking at it. And then going, this isn't going to work. Wait, it's one of the best parts about designing games is it all works in your mind.
Yeah.
And then none of it works when you put it together. But yeah, we've got a lot. Hopefully, man, our idea with the sheet pan game is going to be great. It is. It's going to be. We're going to force it to be. But also, we met a lady yesterday on Friday who she did exactly that. She wanted to play a game. It didn't exist. She made it herself, and she's had pretty good success on the pre-sales of it.
Yeah.
And, she showed up yesterday, and I felt bad for her because she literally did not know that board gaming was this intense.
Yeah, I think she was still going off of the mentality that, a lot of us had in the early 90s, right? Where it's like, well, you've got Monopoly and you've got Clue and you can have a deck of cards, and outside of that, there's not a lot working with. But
yeah, well, her game was fun. It was kind of more of an educational kind of style game, but her eye-opening, talking to you, talking to me, talking to your brother, and seeing Geekway, seeing this huge community of 3,000 plus people coming here to play games man, she is so stoked
So
and ready,
excited.
so excited to be working with us.
Yeah.
Joining us at some of our outings, some of our shows. She invited us to her launch party.
In August.
Yeah,
right?
her launch party. I mean, she's excited. I'm excited to be working with her, and so this community is great. As I always say, it builds bridges, and you don't even know what bridges are going to be built when you show up.
Yeah. And it was amazing meeting Gwen because she had this energy.
Oh, man.
And I talked to people about, we're trying this new thing, making games and all this stuff. And like, I had an idea for a game once, but I just couldn't think of how to make it work. And she just had this energy, and I don't think anything was going to slow her down, right? And she just keeps it going forward. And
yeah, she
made me feel tired. And like, I don't think of myself as being that old, although the teens I work with would probably disagree. But just every moment, every conversation, every word out of her mouth was just like, wow, you have so much going.
Yeah, and like she wanted this game. There wasn't one on the market, and she went off and made it. And it's colorful. It's huge. That board is huge. The table presence on this board is amazing. She has all this money in her game that she worked really hard to go with the diversity. So there's all kinds of different people in the game, and I mean it's like you said, just her energy was was awesome. And yet the fact that she talked with us yesterday and we kind of helped open her eyes to the board game industry. I'm like, talking to like your brother and me could be like trying to drink from a fire hose of energy and information, but man, she was excited. And I told her when she was asking me questions, I looked at her, I said, Gwen, I can take you as far down this rabbit hole as you want to go, but she's got some ins and some connections that we don't even have. And and we've got connections and ins that she doesn't have. So I'm really looking forward to what Wham Wham can do, or Wham Wham. One of like
whichever
was
one
like
it is,
it was that pedal for the guitar, so it goes wow wow wow. Yeah. Anyway, but it'll be fun. I mean, it's going to be a good time. So back to Kickstarter. Are you a creator, a backer, both?
We've been doing our research, trying to decide if any of our games would fit with the Kickstarter. Energy's not the right word,
I think society.
Yeah. Definitely from some great advice we've gotten from some people here. We're thinking our first game wouldn't fit very well on Kickstarter. But we might be creators in the future. Personally, I've backed just a handful of things. Working in ministry, money's pretty tight.
Yeah, I've only backed a handful this month.
Yeah.
It's an addiction. My wife doesn't approve of it. There's worse addictions.
I'm probably someone who is not a loved backer. I'm a passion backer. I really back the things I really genuinely love.
Yeah.
For instance, I backed TAC. I backed a game a long time ago, and I can't even think of what it was called. It was kind of like the old Stratego game, but it was decks of cards, and you could play 2-player or 4-player, and you could play head-to-heads or teams, and I just thought it was beautiful. I backed it fresh out of college. That's how long ago this was.
Was that your first Kickstarter?
That was my first Kickstarter,
It's a new question I almost started asking my guests. What was your first Kickstarter? So it's sad that you remember it, but not the name.
I know, and I can picture the box. It's sitting on my shelf. Next to Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza in my office.
Cat Goat.
That is a new micro game, which we've developed some house rules in my youth ministry to change it up.
So one thing I didn't realize is that the animals in that game have changed.
Really?
So I have the one with like the gorilla, the groundhog, and the narwhal.
That's what I have too.
Some people don't.
Really?
Yes. I don't know what the new ones are. I was hoping you had them so you can tell me.
Do you think they dropped the gorilla because people were getting bruises from banging on their chest?
I think they dropped that and probably the groundhog from, again,
wrapped knuckles and stuff.
Wrapping your knuckles too hard on the table. Self-inflicted bruising. Oh man, Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza is amazing. So what I will say, we'll figure out the name of that game and we'll put it in the show notes so we can make sure we get whatever your first Kickstarter was listed properly in here for everybody. Because mine was Scuttle.
Yeah.
By Jelly Bean and Bluebeard Games or whatever they were calling themselves. I think they were Jelly Bean back then, still. But that was the first one I backed. And 155 later, whatever I'm at now, I can't even tell. But now I couldn't even tell what the latest one I backed was. I'm sure it was something.
Well, I'm sure you backed it, a few hours ago, and so
I've been good this weekend. I haven't backed anything new.
The bad internet here has kept you off the off Kickstarter for a weekend.
So they came around yesterday, so the internet was down, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I was still logged on.
Yeah, it's like the internet's down. You have to go to our backup Wi-Fi service. And we're all looking at each other like, we're still on. I just did a credit card transaction. Who knows? But yeah, it was the convention's been going fun. It's been going well. What games have you enjoyed here at Geekway?
One of my favorite things about Geekway is the play-to-win library.
Absolutely.
You show up, my goal is always to win a game worth my admission. That's the goal, right? And so my wife sent me here with 2 games from the library she really wanted me to play and really wanted me to try and win. Haven't gotten to play Hues and Cues yet, but I've heard that's very fun. But Three Sisters, I've actually really enjoyed that. It's a roll and write game.
I haven't played that one.
Themed around.
I love it.
Yeah, I love roll and write games.
I
feel like there's a million of them though.
Oh, they're so good.
But it's homesteader themed, and we live on the outskirts of St. Louis. We grow a lot of our own food, and so she was in love with that. We played a game last night.
Oh my god. Tenpenny
Parks. Oh man, that game. You pulled that out of the box, and I went, I am not going to want to play this game. And then I have wanted to do nothing but play it since then.
So, Tenpenny Parks, Arwen Kathke was on my show a while back, and she got a review copy of it. And we were talking about it because it was, we saw, I want to say Watch It Play did a how-to on it. And my son and I were watching the how-to video.
Yeah.
And we literally paused it halfway through to see if we could just buy the game. But it wasn't
even out yet.
And we were like, oh my gosh, no. And then Arma was saying how she loved it. And I'm like, I want to play it. And I saw it on the play and win here at Geekway. And I'm like, I got to go get this game. And yeah, I mean, wow.
It was so much fun. And it incorporated so many different aspects of things I love. I come from a big puzzle family. Trying to figure out where to put stuff and how to manage your board was just beautiful. And
and you had the worker placement. You had the limited resources, because as you're buying the Tetris-ish shaped amusement rides, attractions. There we go.
There's the right
they
word.
They were called. I'll keep fumbling. We'll get there. As you keep buying them, they run out. But you got it. You've also got your own mission that you're trying to complete. Build so many of these or so many of that, or have 2 greens or whatever. But you had
while racing your opponents through the 3 different scales. And
oh man, yeah, because you had the thrill, the awe, and the joy, and you're trying to climb those and keep first player. And I mean, that game was absolutely everything I wanted it to be and more. I can promise you, once I get my hands on a copy, I will be doing a podcast episode on it, because it's an amazing game.
So good, and it has
puzzles.
One of my favorite aspects of deciding between resources and points early on.
Yeah.
And it gives you that concept, because so many games it's like, well, if I get points early, am I going to miss out on points later? And there might have been that aspect. I kept passing up chances to get points to move forward.
I went for money early.
I know you did, and you ended up winning by 1 point.
I ended up winning by 1 point. Yeah.
Still a little sore about that.
That's right. But yeah, because Brad and Laurel went after points. Well, I guess early. Brad just kind of went after just trying to get his board started. Laurel went after points early. Maybe I had that backwards. But I went after money to try to buy the bigger stuff. But then again, so this game you have a piece of land that you're developing into an amusement park. So it has trees on it, and you can't build on top of a tree. So you have to use one of your workers to be an arborist and take the trees down. And Brad got twice, I think.
He went to pick up an attraction.
Too
many trees.
There's a tree in the way. And then you had Laurel, who had no trees because she cleaned them all off, and then was able to fit these obscene, huge attractions in there with mega points.
Right at the end, yeah.
And I mean, that was another strategy. I was trying to work around my trees. Laurel was just clearing them out,
bulldozing them down. Yeah.
Brad never had the right ones out of the way. There was so much in that game. Oh man, that one's by far one of my favorites. I just played the new Crew.
I haven't had a chance to play that yet.
I just played that one, so that looks good. That was fun. Basically, just different missions from, basic idea of the original Crew, which is also a great game. I'm trying to think what other ones. I mean, I bought some games that I need to play. Maybe we'll get to one of those tonight. But it's been, all in all, a great con. I'm glad they're back. I'm glad we're back full. I know they did a mini one in the fall here for Geekway to the West, and it was okay. I mean, it was fun. It was good to be back in person, but it was missing out on a lot of what makes it, a fun con. The vendor hall.
Wasn't
being
here.
Able to walk through and see stuff you can't afford because they're really shiny dice and you want them, but you can't afford. I do need to eat today, so I guess I'll be buying those shiny red dice. But yeah, I mean, it's good to be back in the cons. I think your brother and I are looking to go to a couple more yet this year.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hit up some of the proto spiels.
That'd be a lot of fun.
There's the one in September up in Chicago. We'll have to go up there, and proto spiels are great from what I hear. I was totally set to go to like 3 of them in 2020, and they obviously didn't happen. And then
should have just gone and sat by yourself in the convention hall. That would have been fun.
Why is nobody here? No one wants to play my game.
Say that's one aspect of this industry I didn't realize was we did the math and found out we could travel like 300 days out of the year just going to cons without leaving about an 8-hour swing from St. Louis. Between game cons and toy conventions and then anime convention, whatever it would be where you could sell these things. It's amazing how big this culture has come.
Yes.
Considering when I was a sophomore, junior in high school getting into these sort of things, I was still like a closet nerd. I was on the soccer team and people kind of knew I was nerdy, but like I didn't go tell people like, oh yeah, I can't hang out this Sunday, I'm playing D&D, but I was, right? And now it's mainstream and it's fun.
It is fun. It's funny you say that because I played soccer and I wrestled. But then, we played Axis and Allies and Monopoly and Risk and stuff like that, on the weekends with my friends that I played soccer and wrestled with. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, seeing it go more mainstream, be more acceptable by society, that's been a big thing in the last couple of years. And that's why we have these awesome conventions.
Absolutely.
I love Geekway. But like you said, within 8 hours of St. Louis, it is nice living right here in the gateway to the West, as we're 8 hours from
just about everywhere. It seems like sometimes
everything but the coasts. So, but yeah, it'll be fun. I look forward to working with you a lot. I feel like between the 4 of us, Bearded Board Games and Wom Studios, we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah.
We may not make a lot of money, but we're gonna have some fun.
I kept saying this weekend, my dream is 2 or 3 years from now to come back and put up the same sign of the St. Louis small publishers games and just cross out the word small. Don't take it off the list. Just get a big red marker and put it up there. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And talk about your maze game real quick.
So it was actually kind of our flagship game that isn't going to be the first one we've produced. I know you're in a similar boat. The first game you made is not going to be the first one sold. But we have developed this game called Trials of Daedalus, based on Greek mythology. Daedalus created the labyrinth. Mm-hmm. And so it's a game played in 3 phases. A drafting phase where you are collecting heroes and monsters and traps, and then you build your maze. It's a head-to-head game, 2-player, and so you build your maze in secret and then flip it face down so your opponent has no idea what they're getting into. And then you end it by charging through your opponent's maze, collecting as much treasure as possible. And again, I already mentioned it's one of my favorite things of trying to decide between points and make early and late. It's got that aspect of all the treasure you collect can also be spent.
Yeah, well, so, I'd like to point out I won that game against your brother by
also
1
by
point.
1 point. So and your theme is beating Wamser's by 1 point,
now,
apparently.
In my defense, I think I had less treasure cards, but I
higher
had more
value
twos.
treasure.
Yeah. I had like at the end, I had 3 guys still alive, so I got 3 more treasures.
That makes a big
all
one.
Over 2s.
That makes a big difference.
It's a big 6-point swing right there at the end.
And being the guy who was the numbers guy for that game, I'm sitting here going, you shouldn't have been able to do that. The statistics don't work, but that's numbers for you, right? They go all over the place.
That game's awesome. It's going to be a great game. I had a lot of fun playing it. I think the double blind is awesome, where you're creating your own. You're creating your own maze. I'm creating my own maze, and then we're charging through the mazes. Here comes Tom Kleberad, who was on the show earlier.
Well, and I didn't know you were doing your show, otherwise I wouldn't have come and bother you. So, hello. Joe, if you're listening, hello. Otherwise, we'll see you later.
See you
tomorrow, I'm sure.
See you, bud. So, Tom, yeah, he was on the show, oh my gosh, it's been a year ago probably. Maybe more, I don't know. But I just saw him walk by, so it's funny, like you said, getting back out, seeing people. So
and just how quickly people become friends at stuff like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have friends. I've been in the booth with you guys most of the weekend, but I had a bunch of different groups of friends. I just put them together, and they've been playing games all day.
Oh, yeah.
All day.
Well, so as soon as I could get out of the booth, I went and jumped in with some of the friends you introduced me to and got some games in, which was
and it was good to see people like Tom that I haven't seen in a while, and other people that are in from town, because, as I like to say, board games build bridges, and they're building the bridges of everybody here, rebuilding the ones that have been maybe a little dilapidated, getting them back in shape, and building new ones like ours.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's going to be a good bridge.
You really like this bridge metaphor. It almost feels like you should lean into it a little more.
A little more. Absolutely. I'm leaning into as much as I can. So, Phil, if anybody want to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you?
Pretty soon, whamwhamgames.com should go live. That's one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me, to reach out to me. If not, I'm easy to find on all the social medias. Phill Wamser, that's Phil with 2 L's, because I'm unique and a beautiful butterfly. So PhillWamser. You plug that into just about anything, and you'll find me.
You're probably the only one.
Probably. Yeah. I've only in my lifetime met 2 other people who spell Phil with 2 L's. And they were both almost as strange as me.
And they weren't Wamsers.
They were not Wamsers, though, yeah. So that's easy. Otherwise, whamwhamgames@gmail.com is also an option to get a hold of me, although I don't check that one as frequently.
That's your brother's job.
Yeah, he does a lot of that. So.
No, that's what I was joking. Our board game email address is beardedboardgames@gmail.com, and I just forward Tim the emails from that email account that he needs to be made aware of. The rest of them I take care of. So thanks again, Phil, for being on my show today. And as usual, if you want to reach out to me, it is eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com, eatlunchandboardgame.com, and facebook.com/groups/eatlunchandboardgame. And remember that board games build bridges.
Stay in tune with all things sports around Indiana and the nation with the Crash Course Podcast. Each week, we tackle the big storylines from the world of the Colts, Pacers, and the Indiana college scene, while also keeping a pulse on the nation. We record live weekly at twitch.tv/3C Media and can be found on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard, you can catch the Crash Course Podcast.
When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.